Alright, so today we're going to be talking about triangle defenses, but in order for us to kind of get into the defenses for the triangle, we need to actually start up with how triangles get set up. So this could happen many different ways. One is that, Jet might start trying to slide his arm under in order to go for a single leg pass. If I can block this from getting out here, I can start to set up that triangle. Sometimes I could be doing this push-pull action where I shove his hand in, put my foot onto his hip there, and then come up and set up that triangle, right? It could be, right, I set up this arm bar, right? And I come over here, and then he pulls his arm out, right? Or maybe I go for a scissor sweep, he pushes my leg down, I come over the top of his arm, pop up, and come into that triangle. Right? It could be, I've got them written down here. It could be that I could have gotten like wrist control here, and then I step out and I get into this kind of cross guard position, push onto his pec, straight my leg, pull, right? But that's going to be very similar to maybe I got a butterfly thing going on here, and I pull out, transfer into the spider guard, point my toe, come into the triangle from that direction. So that's kind of like, we have to be very mindful of all these different entries that we could go in here and kind of see them coming on sooner rather than later. But we also need to recognize that a triangle has many different stages in it. So right now, Jet is in a sort of triangle situation because I have the potential of putting on a triangle, but there's nothing in. So in this stage, Jet's going to be trying to keep both his arms in or both his arms out of the guard. So if I start to push his arm down and I start going for that triangle, he's going to try to get that other arm out as quickly as possible, right? Or, if I start to clear and start to pop up, he might try to work his hand back in or something along those lines. So, he's just trying to look for this 2 arms in or 2 arms out sort of situation. Now, one thing I do want to say is that if somebody starts to do this type of thing here, right, to come up to the triangle, and he wants to start getting this arm back, he wants to get his elbow in first. Sometimes people will start to try to put their hand in first, and if somebody does that, I'm going to lace through, pop over, and I'm going to set up a Brada Plata from here. So try to always make sure that pretty much almost any attack, I can't think of many, that where you wouldn't want to get the elbow to be cleared first. So when we're talking about the stages of the triangle, we said that there's this situation, there's this situation, right? There's this. Now, if we go ahead and shift it, moves over towards the laundry room. Right? In this situation here, you see that my legs are across his back and across his shoulders here, right? And so this situation, I can't actually finish the triangle from here, and it wouldn't necessarily be a triangle, but he has a lot more that he can do to start defending, but he needs to respect that he's in a triangle situation at this point. Likewise, if I get here, now he has fewer options of what he can do. My shins across the back of his neck, I've got a pretty good triangle set up here. And then there's that, right? So now he can't posture up. He probably can't start pushing on my hip to kind of prevent me from getting my hip out. There's very little that he can do here, and he's pretty much done. Same thing here, right? This is another stage, right? His arms all the way across my body, and all I have to do now is kind of pivot. I've got very little to do in order to finish that triangle. So, lots of stages, lots of different entries. We're going to go ahead and switch positions here, and we'll talk about kind of this opening here. So, if, for example, I start going for that low single, and for whatever reason, maybe I was somehow able to get this under here, notice that I'm trying to keep my elbow on the inside of his thigh here, right? If he were to really jerk my hand out, then my next defense is to swim the other one back in, right? So before I go for that low single, I'm going to do what I can to get both my elbows past his thigh, and then from here, there's no triangle to be had, right? Because he doesn't have my elbow inside. But if he starts to get there, then I'm going to swim back in very quickly. Okay? So, if he starts to clear this arm with his knee, right? So he's gonna bring his knee over the top and try to shove it down. I might use that as an opportunity to get this arm out. I'm not so worried about, like, if he locks up his legs and starts to straighten his legs and try to squeeze my head and all that, I can start to stack them and I can look that off pretty easily. So I'm not too concerned about like a straight head scissor or anything like that here. All right. So if he starts to clear that, then I'm going to try to be starting to get this one out as well, since I might not have the opportunity to get this one back in. Of course, if he starts to clear that with his knee, he's probably going to be holding on to this arm, right? Because he doesn't want me to get my elbow past. So if he clears that, I'm going to try to get my hand back in, right? So you want to, if you're setting up that triangle, be very thorough about it, right? So when I cover his arm, boom, I get all the way on my side here, right? I've got a good pull here, and I get a nice good clear. If he tries to get that arm back in, go ahead and try to pummel that back in. It's going to be a little bit hard for him to do so. And you see, I'm holding down, and I start to bend this down as I shoot my leg up, so I get a better angle here, right? So, depends on how good your guy is. Usually this type of clear, when I do it, I'm probably going to be here. I'm going to be relatively quick about it. And that's something that I actually practice when we do our armbar triangle omoplata drill. So, you know, you're going to get into a pretty sticky situation no matter what. So that's going to be your first stage, is just that arm in, arm out idea there. Now, in this example here, right, he clears this arm, right, he gets up and he gets his legs locked across my shoulders. So he's not going to cross the neck yet, but he's going to go ahead and try to lock that up here. Now, so in this situation, the first thing that I'm usually going to do is I'm going to start to look up, right? Because he needs to break my posture down in order to get this to work. Now, from here, I'll usually put my hand on the hip and I'll keep trying to put some downward pressure on this. You see, it's hard for him to even hold on to that with that. You know, either way, I just want him to try to keep his hips down while I'm looking up. And this is, you see, I'm pitching my elbow down onto his thigh. It's going to make it harder for him to close it up, and I'm kind of controlling his hips here. Now, from here, basically, since I got this, I can treat this as a low single. So I'm going to start to stack him, right? And I'm going to try to press his shoulders onto the mat, and then I roll my hips, and I look off, and I'll usually be able to get out of it at that point. All right? So let's say that he gets to that point, right? He shoots up, boom. And I'm trying to look up, but he's just breaking my posture down like crazy, and I'm just getting stuck down here, right? So what I need to do is I need to block this hip here, and I need to keep my elbow pinched in. Now, the old school way of doing this is to go like this, where they take their arm and they come under here. Now, if Jet were to push on my head that way, right, and unlock his legs, he can go right into an omoplata here, right? He's just, whoop, it's right there. So, once I get into this position, I block the hip and I keep my elbow up a little bit, right? I don't want to be posting on the ground. I don't want to be coming here, but I'm actually pinching this in, and I'm controlling the hips on this side. So now if he tries to go for that omoplata, I've got him kind of controlled here. So for this one, the way that I'm going to start to defend this is I'm going to start to move to the side to kind of get his leg down to the mat. All right, and from here I take this hand out, and I'm going palm up onto his thigh here, and I move my bicep past his knee onto his shin here. So you can see Jet's already started to let go here. If he hasn't, I'm going to sneak my hand in and cover my head. So if he tries to lock up now again, even if I don't have that grip here, it's going to be relatively hard for him to do, and I've got like all this space covered here, so I can just start to move out. All right, let's go ahead and switch sides a little bit so you can kind of see this, what I'm doing here a little bit better. All right, so he shoots up, he's got that. I'm going to block the hip, and I control the thigh on this side. So you see that grip here, and then this grip here. I'm going to move my body and bring my chest down to the ground. So take this hand out, and I grab onto his thigh, but even before he does that, like if Jet wanted to try to climb around to my back right now, I've got my grip on to his thigh here. If he tries to pull his leg out from underneath me, it's going to be relatively hard to do, right? You'd have to let go and you'd have to try to strip out. So there's not really much that he can do here from this position. I've got pretty good control over him. So then I move to here. Now if Jet tries to get his leg out and try to climb up to my back, his leg is pinned onto the mat. So I'm here, I get my bicep here. So from here, this is just kind of a holding position to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere, he doesn't attack me. So I can slip this out, cover my head. Now I can pop out and come into like a reverse switch base or something along those lines. All right. So, there was another one that I wanted to cover. Oh, yes. So along with the stack pass, right? Jet starts to get it locked up, and for this one, it might be kind of a last ditch effort on this one. So Jet actually gets this a little bit more locked up. So he's parallel to my neck, right? He gets his angle and all that. So he's got a better lock. I do want to try to keep, whatever way I can to try to keep the pinch onto his hips. And I want to stop him from being able to get that angle if I can. Now I'm going to start to stack into him a little bit. Now he could be keeping the structure, like putting his boots on, like trying to drive his heels into the ground. Go ahead and lock your ankle up properly. And so I'm going to put my foot by his bicep and sit back. Now I just extend out, and I can usually pop my head out that way. The problem with this one, right, is I immediately need to start digging my heels underneath his body, right? Because he's going to try to start going for a straight ankle lock here if he can get it. Now, he still needs to get this leg underneath so he can control the bottom of the lever, which is going to be difficult for him to do in this position, right? So he's going to have his foot on my hip here. He's going to have foot on the hip. He's going to be pinching in, and then he's got kind of a straight ankle lock there. But you saw how much work, even without me resisting, that he had to do to kind of get to that, right? So, but he could also get heel hooks, which he might not actually need that much control to do. So once I get here, right, I'm going to bury my heels in so he can't underhook, he can't get in there, he can't get to my feet, right? So from here, I can start controlling. Once I get that pop out, I want to maintain connection. I want to maintain pressure here. So now I can grip out and come out, right? So again, that's going to be kind of a last-ditch effort because it puts me at risk for another submission down the road, right? If that makes any sense. As far as the one where I had the triangle and they're hooking under the thigh here, honestly, I haven't been in that situation often because most people don't know it. It's a little bit cumbersome to get into. Some tournaments consider it a spinal lock because it kind of is. And I just haven't had the opportunity to try to break out of it. The thing that I would probably say is if you're in that position, I would try to straighten the leg that he's underhooked on, right? So if Jet gets that triangle and he's able to get his foot under my thigh, which because of our size difference, it might be really difficult for him to do, right? But if he can do that, I need to break that hook, and probably straightening back and shooting back is going to be a good way to do it. And then you have to start treating this like it's a regular triangle. But as you guys kind of saw, and this is something that you have to be kind of concerned about, and this just goes into triangle maintenance in general. Right, once I get into kind of this situation, if he keeps posturing up, a couple ways I can start to break his posture down, right? I could bridge up and then bring him down with me, right? I could, and this is probably a little bit of a more reliable way, is I angry baby back, right? I'm just rolling my shoulders, and you see that once he doesn't have the foundation to resist me, so then he's going to fall back down into the triangle a little bit deeper, right? So just be mindful that when you're in this position that you have other things that you have to contend with and you're going to be fighting against. This is a complex situation. And you also have to be very mindful about this arm, right? Because in here, if I get a grip on that, there's an arm bar there as well. So just a few thoughts, things to think about, and really what I want you guys to try to do is like within any type of situation that you start to pick apart and think about it on both sides. So, and that's one of the reasons why I covered this with both setups as well as defenses, is because you have to, in order to defend something, you have to know what these setups are going to be, and the way that the other person's going to respond, and vice versa. So you're going to be much better at attacking triangles if you know what people are going to do in response to them, right? So try to understand things from both sides and actually actively think about, okay, when this happens to me, right, this is what I'm going to do. And if I do this to somebody else, this is how I would respond if I was in their position. And then I can start to build a response to the response. And again, this is one of those things that, this is going to happen. I get, the scissor sweep, and he smashes my leg down. So here I hold his wrist, I come over the top, and I set up the triangle. He starts to defend by wrapping his arm around my leg. I push off, and I get into this omoplata, but then he powerhouses up and tries to build his posture up hard, so I can go right back into that triangle if I wanted to, right? I could, if I did miss his head like he just kind of did, I could go for my key lock. Now the thing about a key lock, and I love this grip, and you can get it from pretty much anywhere, but once you have it, this is a hard grip for somebody to break, right? Now, preferably I'd be here with this, but maybe I ended up here. My main concern with this is that he's going to roll forward and unwind it, and so my leg on his back is preventing him from doing that. Generally, a Kimura from here, it finishes faster the higher his chest is off the ground. But if he's sitting on your thigh or he's face planting, as long as you stop him from rolling over, you've got that Kimura there. So start stringing together your attacks. I know I've said it several times, but I think that is one of the absolute best ways that you can actually improve your game and actually starting beating people regularly and doing tournaments and all that. So thank you guys for watching. Happy holidays. It's Christmas here right now, so yeah, you guys have a lovely time. Bye.